Sweet. Hey, welcome everyone. This is Shelley from EatRelateLove.com, and I'm joined here by Lorraine Thomas of CaseyLorraine.com. And she is here for our What She Ate series. You guys, this is the new series I'm so excited about, and she's our first guest. And basically what she ate is just an exploration and highlighting women who have revolutionized their relationship with food so that they can have better bodies, better relationships, and better lives, period. And women who use their feminine power to really, really recreate their life and really go ahead and heal through the food journey. So, Casey, how are you, honey? Welcome.
Hey, thanks very much. Ooh, I like that intro. I feel a little feminine powered up.
Awesome. So, Casey, where are you joining us from? Because I'm in Atlanta right now, but I'm really excited about your location.
Yeah, I'm in Perth in Western Australia, so gorgeous, sort of very isolated but beautiful, big, sunny city with on the beach. So very nice.
Oh, beautiful! Wow. So, Casey, I discovered your blog, just sort of, searching emotional eating because that's something that's near and dear to my heart. And I came across Casey Lorraine and the Freedom from Emotional Eating website, and I was like, yeah, I need to talk to her immediately. So I read your story, but I want you to share with our listeners about your background and how you came to this journey where, your relationship with food sort of, got on the disordered track. What was going on?
Yeah, well, it's, I think with most people, you find that it's usually quite a complex history, and mine is no different. And I think mine started, just even as a kid, really. I think, we see this in our culture. It kind of starts at a very young, even like toddler age, when we're giving food as treats or for punishment or to shut us up or whatever else. And that's, mothers and fathers are amazing. So they do the best they can. But we form this really strange relationship with food from the get-go. And that's certainly no different for me. And then over my childhood, I really battled with my weight. After I, literally from about 11 years old onwards, I was really struggling to live in my body and to maintain a healthy weight. And, being a young person, it was very important to me that I did that so that I wouldn't be bullied and things like that. Especially having the red hair, that was another thing. So, I relied on food to really, really provide the comfort that I thought I wasn't getting in other areas of my life. A lot of stuff went on with my family. There was just like a bit of a deep, dark history of stuff, and nothing was really that severe in my life. Everything, seemed outwardly pretty good, but inside I just wasn't feeling, my best. I wasn't feeling balanced. There was obviously some emotional needs that weren't being met. So I went on and off the dieting bandwagon, and that's when it really cemented into an unhealthy relationship with food. It was sort of food was my enemy or my friend. It was either, I went all out and ate whatever the hell I wanted, or it was like I was restricting, trying to, calorie counting, all that sort of stuff, trying to keep my body into some size that I thought was acceptable.
Right.
And then just, over time, that didn't lessen. I went into things like over-exercising and then back. I binge ate so much. I found I used to actually admire people who could have anorexia. To me, it was unconscionable that I could not eat.
Not eat, right. Right.
The restriction around
I know that feeling, yes.
I thought it was like this amazing willpower that I just wasn't strong enough to have.
Right.
It shows how disordered my thinking was. It took me a long time until I actually was very sick as well. I had a lot of health issues. I had like bleeding eczema, a lot of immune issues, all sorts of stuff going on. And I was always interested in nutrition, mostly initially because of dieting.
Yeah.
But then it turned into wanting to heal myself. And it was actually the physical lack of health that I had that drove me to find a better way with food, to try and pick foods that would nourish me, heal me, nurture me.
Right.
And it was actually that physical process that I started to find, this emotional healing. And to the point where now, and it was a long journey, don't get me wrong.
Right.
15 years of trial and error and finding my way.
Yeah.
But it's taken me to this point now where I just have this beautiful, relationship with food where there's just so much pleasure, and I I love what I eat. It loves me. I don't feel the need to, to binge or to restrict. There's no punishment involved anymore.
Right. So you said something really interesting. You talked about willpower, and you were saying that, you actually admired at that time people who were suffering from anorexia, because for you it was like, how could you not eat? And I know for a fact I've heard statements of women who are like, you know what, like maybe it would just be easy if I was anorexic, because like I wish I could do that. And so that's not the first time I've heard that. And there's this notion about willpower, as if willpower is this thing that we lack, and that is the reason why we're not successful, and that is the reason why we don't have the body that we need to have, and that is the reason. What advice do you give to women who still think that willpower is the issue? What would you say to them?
Well, I would simply say it's not the issue. It requires, delving deeper than that. I mean, we all have power. And we do need it. Obviously, we need it to get things done, to stay motivated, to get up every day and do our jobs, whatever it might be.
Right.
And it plays a really important role, but it's like literally 10% to the 90%, which is our head, our mind and our heart and our body. And it's actually there's a huge disconnect in those areas when you have any kind of crux, whether it's food, ciggies, drugs, whatever, exercising, sex, anything. So, and there's this huge disconnect. So you need to find that connection. You need to connect with yourself and find what it is actually, what you're really hungering for, what's really missing. And just also, we live in a world, as I said, just even with like toddlers being fed food for reasons other than hunger. It carries on even into the adult world. But everything's surrounded by food, So we're always on the, I don't like to say it's a battle, because I'm an optimist, I don't see it like that, but we are trying to have a healthy relationship with food and nourish our bodies in a world which is pretty insane in what it actually says about food. We've got these media messages about junk food and diet meals, and, frozen happy fat, and low calorie this, fat free that. And then we've got, these models and people who just, only maintain the way they look through life. And I work with a lot of models, so I know this firsthand. They're throwing up and they're relying on cigarettes and cocaine.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
go ahead. Okay, yeah. One of the
basically, so understanding that, and then, choosing to put your own soul, heart, and your health, not just your body first.
One of the things that you talked about as you were talking about your journey, as you healed your relationship with food, you said that there wasn't something that was traumatic that necessarily happened. It wasn't a severe thing, because I know for some women, especially I know in my case, there was a very traumatic event that happened, and whoa, my eating disorder with compulsive overeating really was my way of survival. Like that's the purpose that it served. But for everyone, it isn't about a traumatic event. Sometimes it's just things that just aren't necessarily we're not being fed in a way, so we use food to feed ourselves. And you talked about that there are emotional needs that were not being met, and I think that's so key. So you said that as you got older, you started to really be able to emotionally feed yourself. And I know that in your blog, I read a post where you're talking about that you traveled. And you said that the distance, which was really powerful, away from being in Perth, Australia, which is where you grew up, correct? Yeah. From Australia was what gave you sort of the time and the ability to start healing your emotional wounds. Can you talk about that distance and what and how that helps you in healing, and also just giving tips for women to say, how can we begin to heal our own emotional wounds?
Oh, yeah. For me, like you say, there wasn't just one major event, but I mean, there was definitely one that I recognized really escalated my relationship with food to be, even more healthy for sure. There was multiple of them, I think,
right?
at a degree. And a lot of it was revolving around my family. So me, this is pretty normal, really, when it comes down to it. So for me, I actually had always had this drive to travel anyway. It was something that was literally like a calling for me. I went through uni and I was studying and working, and I kind of just kept stressing it. And fortunately, I managed to get myself to a position where I could travel. And it was just an amazing, heart-opening experience for me because I'd always wanted to. I was doing things I really wanted to. I was on my own. I was able to stand for the first time as an adult world with no influence. I could simply be myself and then form the connections that I wanted to with people who were attracted to me and vice versa. And it just was a really liberating experience. And, you know, I let myself go where I wanted to go and do whatever I wanted to do and talk to whoever I wanted to talk to. So that there was no need to go and stuff myself with, you know, a bag of bread or something in my room.
So it sounds like you're saying, I'm going to interrupt you real quick. It sounds like you're saying that your ability to just be who you are and be present as without having to deal with all this sort of external stuff really allows you to access like your emotional self.
Yes, exactly. And what I would say to the people watching is that, you know, that was a bit of a drastic move for me. I think that's, you know, in terms of having to go traveling. You don't need to go traveling around the world to make that happen.
Although it is nice.
Money. But it would be nice. Yeah, exactly. You can do this just in elements in your everyday life. So while the traveling was my turning point, it by no means was the healing like done. It was 10 years after that for me to actually really cement my, you know, my emotional health. Yeah. And what that meant was actually looking within, you know, finding pauses, just the ones that actually hear what my body and what my heart, my soul is trying to actually say to me. Because before that, I never really, I may listen, but I'll be like, yeah, whatever. I don't want to hear you right now.
Right.
You know, I don't have the time for you, whatever. And it was just actually stopping and listening and also doing things that brought me pleasure. Pleasure is one of the big things I think women.
Yes, the pleasure principle.
Yeah, we just don't make the time for it as well. Like, it's sort of like we do. We look after everyone else. We trying to make a successful career, trying to stand up in our own power. And that's all great. We want to do all those things too. But we have to find pleasure, like, every day of our lives. And I think when there's that lack of pleasure and lack of indulgence in our lives, I don't mean elaborate, spending lots of money pleasure, but just little things.
Right.
You know, then we turn to food because it's, you know, that seems like it's going to be the pleasure that fulfills it.
Wow. Yeah. So taking time to really understand what brings you pleasure outside of food, because let's not get it twisted. Food is a pleasurable experience, right?
Yeah.
But understanding that there's more. There's other ways to experience pleasure, whether it be, for me, I love to dance. So if I get to go salsa dancing, or if I get to go to Carnival in Trinidad and just go shake my thing, or even being in relationships, like, you know, being in the company of a nice, cozy man, or reading books, like with Jill Scott playing in the background. So there's different ways to experience pleasure. Yeah, and I think that's important for women to get in touch with that spot. That's a very powerful point. Thank you for making that.
I think too, it's not making excuses for it, because I think we feel guilty if we do something pleasurable. Like, I've done this many times in my life where I sat there, you know, sat on the couch, filled up with a nice cup of tea and awesome, like, you know, like trashy romance, porno type book.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. I should be doing something more productive. And, you know, yourself actually do those things because they feed your soul, totally.
What you just said is so key. You said, I should be doing something more productive. So ladies and men who are looking at this video, pleasure is productive. Repeat after me. Pleasure is productive. Totally. Yeah. So, in one of the posts that I read, you had this really powerful quote, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't remember exactly, but you said, the way you choose food is a reflection of your worth. And I thought that was powerful. The way you choose food, the way you feed yourself is a reflection of how you feel about yourself, is a reflection of your worthiness. And I know that focusing or having a plant-based diet has really been powerful in your ability to heal your relationship with food. So I'm a self-proclaimed flexitarian. I have been vegetarian. I have been vegan. And then I just woke up one day and I was like, you know what? I like chicken and I like cheese. However, I know what it does to me. So I'm a flexitarian. I mean, you will find me on all ends of the spectrum. But again, the way I eat is really about, well, what does my body need? And I know how to really enjoy vegan food and like turn it out. And I know how to enjoy chicken and turn it out. So can you talk about the power of a plant-based diet and also this idea of choosing foods that reflect your worth?
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, so, I mean, I'm, in my work, a lot of what I do is actually helping people to move to a more plant-based diet to detoxify and heal their bodies. Because obviously, if we are congested physically, it's going to affect our moods and our happiness and our emotions and our state too, right? So
Totally.
you can't eat food all day long and think that you're going to be feeling happy and balanced and in a state of pleasure. It's not going to happen. So what I found personally was that moving to a really natural, whole food, mostly plant-based diet was really liberating for me, because before that it had literally been like low-calorie food, low diet food, all those sorts of things, and they do not make you feel nourished, in my opinion. So, and what it was just opened up this whole new area for me of not only foods that made me feel fantastic physically, but foods that kept me balanced and grounded and in my body, but also like vibing at a nice place. It also gave me a whole new area to play with. So like before that, I'd never enjoyed cooking, because like food for me was like a problem. It was like if I made it, I would eat it, and then that would be that many calories, and it was an issue. Whereas once I got into plant-based food, I realized that I'm feeding myself the most superior forms of nutrition I probably could. And that was actually, you know, it didn't really matter what I made as long as it was, you know, from great, healthy, natural ingredients.
Exactly.
It was going to be good for me, and not only physically, but it was going to manage my weight, and it just became effortless, and I started to enjoy cooking and preparing food again. It was no stress around it anymore.
Right.
So I found it really liberating on that sense, and also the sense that, and this might sound a little bit, you know, way out there for some people, but it's also the energetic connection too. Like they're living, I eat a lot of raw food, I eat a lot of plant-based raw food, and there's real energy when you have that food. Like I live off, most of the day I live off fresh juices and salads and smoothies and things like that, but they taste amazing. It's just not like, you know,
yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do.
And I've seen some of your recipes. I'm going to, a shameless plug, go over to KCLorraine.com. Like, she has really cool recipes on the website that you're like, what? Who knew this could taste like that? I mean, really yummy stuff.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I post them every day, so definitely check it out. But yeah, and so it's definitely it's also that sense of connection with the land and our earth again too. Like, so I think we're so far removed from where our food comes from most of the time. Just going through like drive-thrus, or you're picking up something at the you know, the gas station, you don't really connect with your food. Whereas you start to see where your food comes from and having more natural food, you appreciate it more, and you actually appreciate, you know, what it's doing for your body more.
Very true.
Especially for me, because it turned around my health.
Yeah.
It was obvious the power of these foods, so it became a pleasurable thing. And then with the actual, you know, sending the message to yourself, what I mean by that is, you know, I see this time and time again. I work one-on-one and in groups with a lot of clients with emotional eating issues, which is really the majority of people. And what I've found is that when people are choosing like lots of junk foods, or they're overeating massively, or they're, you know, like kind of using food as a punishment essentially, whether it's restricting or whether it's overeating.
Yeah.
And it's always a reflection of their self-worth, and food really does have that power. It's another relationship. I like to think of it like a lover almost, you know. It's
totally
how you react with your, and interrelate with your food is almost like, you know, likening it to a bad or a good relationship with a lover.
Totally.
And how you treat it, you know, how you want to be treated, and if you've got that food in your life which is going to nourish you and support you and make you feel good, well, your self-worth is good enough, obviously, for you to choose those foods. If you are having a junk food all the time because you don't think you're worthy and good enough, and you want to stay overweight because you can't hide, and you know, all those things, well, you know, that's what you'll tend to do. So it's a really direct correlation with what I found. And oftentimes when I just say that to somebody, that you understand that what you're actually choosing to eat is a direct reflection of how you feel about yourself and your own self-worth. They pause, stop and think, and they're like, you're absolutely right, you know, you're absolutely right. And it's a very turning point for you.
Yeah, it's one of those things, I think, when people hear that and they think about it. I've done workshops before, and one of the workshops I do is called Guiltless Indulgence, and I've had women almost cry, like, whoa, I didn't realize that this is how I thought about myself. One of the things I want you to touch points on is you said that having a relationship with food really is another relationship. So I know that your background, you did corporate America for several years. You're a marketing manager, yes? Yeah. And then now you're in the independent sector. You're in the, like, you know, the life design sector where you're working for yourself and you run a successful online coaching business. Can you tell the listeners how the evolution of your relationship with food began to affect the evolution of your relationship to your career and your business?
It's just endless how it affected it, really. And it wasn't just my career; it affected everything in my life. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what it was not only as I healed more emotionally, and as I built more self-worth and self-confidence, and the way that I really became to trust my food and it trusted me. This kind of mutually supporting relationship. I was given the opportunity, and power within myself to actually make the choices that I wanted to make that I'd been holding myself back from before, or even make those. Not even to take the action, although I did do that, but even just to acknowledge what I really wanted, which was really important.
Wow.
Before I suppressed it, I suppressed it, and because the trying to body and the food was so much of my focus, I just had no room to think about these other things, So I was just, I just did what I thought I could do. Went on a course, getting into a really senior position, all that sort of stuff.
Wow, that's huge. I'm going to interrupt you real quick because I want people to listen to that. You said I did what I thought I should do, which is to go out in the corporate sector. And it also makes me think about people who are like chronic dieters. Yeah. Like they're doing what they think they should do. Well, I should be eating this, so I'll just eat that. But they're not necessarily having a relationship or enjoying it or having the pleasure principle, if you will, or bringing their body's needs to their relationship with food. So yeah, that being in that, I think I should do this and just not being conscious.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's exactly the same with food. Like you say, it's like, I think I should eat this because I got told that it's either healthy or it will help me lose weight or it's low calorie, even though you're not enjoying it whatsoever. And that's why, while I think it's very important to eat healthy, nutritious food so that your body's in balance, you also need to find serious pleasure in it. It needs to be a balance with both. So what happened with my career is that basically I would always be drawn to health, and particularly after I went through my own healing journey, I realized because it was a very difficult one for me. I was healing from something which was like a headache. This is a big thing, and it took me a long time. And so I realized how much I had to give to other people on this topic. Mm-hmm. And it really, I think, even when it happened, it was such a natural thing. It was almost like I couldn't not change my career. I just knew this corporate world was toxic to me at that stage. And I was so drawn. And I went from a giant salary to nothing as I started my business, back to study and all that sort of stuff. But it was 100% worth it. And I wake up every day, and I know there's people who say it can be annoying, but I am one of those annoying people now. So I wake up and I'm like, I love my life.
Exactly. How can you not wake up and not say that? Yeah.
Exactly. And it's just, when you get your emails or messages or feedback from people who are transforming their lives. And that's why, I did the nutrition and the detox and the health aspect and the emotional eating aspect, but I also studied life coaching. And so I work with my clients not just on the health and physical and emotional aspect, but also on transforming their lives too, because that's exactly what happened to me. It started in one area, and then it moved across my entire.
I like to say that how you do anything is how you do everything. It is all connected.
Favorite sayings. One of my favorite sayings.
Yeah, totally. If you can look at your relationship with food, you can see how you show up with your man or your partner. You can see how you show up in your career with your business. You can see how you show up with your children, with your family, with yourself. It's all a reflection and a mirror of everything. So, yeah, that's really awesome. I'm so glad that I got an opportunity to speak with you. And before we sort of close out our interview, you have this really cool offering on your website that goes from feeling frumpy to friggin' fantastic. Am I saying that right? Yeah, it's this free offering that you have for people who go and subscribe, who can just go and get it now. Can you give us the information and what are they going to get with that?
Yeah.
You're breaking up, Casey, and I want to make sure that everyone hears it.
Thanks for mentioning that. And simply just head over to my website, www.caseylorraine.com. Mm-hmm. Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead and start over because I want to make sure people get that.
Cool. Okay, so just head on over to www.caseylorraine.com, and you'll see on the right-hand side there's a free report which I give out, you just drop in your email and your name, and the report is basically a summary of some of the most core principles that you need to really start to transform your health and your relationship with food. Right. And it covers, the physical element, the detoxification elements, and then touches on emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being, because they all are necessary for a real transformation. Yeah. There's also some yummy recipes and a sample menu plan and things like that to try and show you that you can get, an awesome amount of pleasure and satisfaction from really healthy food.
Yes.
Yeah. When you sign up for that too, you also get my weekly newsletter, Bloom Time. Mm-hmm. If you want to bloom and blossom. And that's got weekly videos, recipes, articles on all these related topics, which are going to help you to feel amazing. So.
Sweet. That sounds like an amazing deal. And it's free. Yeah, you guys need to hop over to CaseyLorraine.com. Yeah. And Casey, where can we find you on social media? Because I'm a Twitter and a Facebook head. So where can we find you?
Yeah, sure. So it's just, twitter.com/Casey Lorraine. Mm-hmm. And Facebook, I'll have to, it's not a very short URL, but if you look up Steve Thomas, you'll find me.
Sweet. Well, and is that a fan page or is that a friend?
That's a friend one. My actual fan page is Raw Lifestyle and Detox Coaching.
Sweet. Okay, perfect. Well, you guys, thank you so much for spending your time with us. You have been tuned in to What She Ate, and we just learned what Casey ate and how her life has completely been transformed into such a yummy, delicious lifestyle. And you can find her at CaseyLorraine.com. You'll see the link above the video. And I'm Shelley Chapman, your food relationship coach from EatRelateLove.com, and it's been my pleasure. Take care.
Thanks, Shelley.